I've had to use different people because their process wasn't tight. There wasn't communication.
Client journey is leaking because you're not thinking about the client. And if you know what's happening, that pretty much becomes a workflow.
Right.
And then you can automate the workflow.
If you're responsible for it, you want to know what it is, and we call these SOPs, where you're creating standard operating procedures, right? So when you know, okay, cool, this is our fulfillment process, and you can articulate it to your customer and client so that they're aware.
A lot of times when it comes to fulfillment, there's a timeline involved.
Based on you listening to this podcast, you're probably a creative entrepreneur who's ready to stop hustling for clients and start building a business that runs on purpose, profit, and peace.
If that's you, we want to invite you to join the Creative to CEO Challenge, a 5-day live coaching experience designed to help you shift your mindset and develop the habits to turn your creativity into consistent cash flow.
And it's all happening live on Zoom inside a private community of ambitious creative entrepreneurs just like you. People who are done guessing, done grinding, and ready to build with clarity and confidence.
By the end of the challenge, you'll have a crystal clear direction on your next 90 days, a profit plan that fits your lifestyle, and the framework to start earning 10K plus months doing what you love without burning out or selling out.
So if that sounds like what you need, then tap the link in the description or scan the QR code if you're watching this on screen. And do not forget to upgrade to VIP for bonus coaching and behind the scenes Q&A every day of the challenge with me and Shy.
We can't wait to help you unlock CEO mode and the freedom you've been working for. Now, let's get back to the episode.
So you're getting inquiries, but something about your income still feels inconsistent. You're booked, but something still feels broken. It's probably because you haven't sifted through your client journey enough to realize where in the process you may be leaking profits. Well, in this video, we're actually going to unpack 7 areas where creatives lose money, so you want to stay locked in. Let's get it.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Minding My Creative Business podcast, the #1 podcast for creative entrepreneurs to learn strategy, structure, sustainability, and self-development. I am your co-host, Ron Ironically Jr.
And I am your co-host, ShySpeaks, and this episode is going to be critical. It's going to be crucial, and it's going to be one of my favorites because we're helping them find the money.
Yes,
you know?
yes. We're going to walk you through your client journey, okay? Yes. So, #1, let's start with what is a client journey, right? Yeah. A client journey is the pathway that you take your customer or your client, right? So it goes from the attraction stage, like, what is this? To the, oh, I trust you, I'm gonna buy this, right? To the, okay, I bought it, right? And then, I'm gonna buy it again.
Oh, I love I'm gonna buy it again. That's the perfect phase. We're gonna get there. And sometimes it's leaking right in between I bought and I buy again, but we'll get there. Now, I love it because we're going from I'm curious, I'm interested, you know. How do you even get that interest, right? So that's what we're talking about. In business terms, you hear people say generating leads. Now, that's not terms that I typically hear creative entrepreneurs say, but they're like, how do I get somebody to be interested and know about what I'm doing? And then once they know about what I'm doing, how do I convert that interest into a sale? And then that what we would call a conversion. And then how we go from a sale to another sale. Like how can I increase your average order card and all that kind of stuff. The average value of your order card. This is too much, too many vernaculars, but it's really not. It's super simple, and we want to make sure you go through that client journey.
Yeah, because most of the time, us as creators, what we're literally focused on is creating said product, right? That's what we love doing. We love to create it. Then, you know, we may focus on delivering a little bit, right? But it's kind of stops there, right? And there's more steps. So, all right, let's take them through these steps.
All right, so when we said we're going to go through 7 steps, we actually mapped it out. So we're going to refer here to some notes just so we can keep ourselves on track and make sure we give you all 7. We don't have to get to the end of the video and be like, well, we said 7, but it was really 6. I seen a video like that. Like it was a dude, he was on the short. He was like, I'm going to give you 30 ways how you can repurpose your video and then by the time he got done, it was 20. He was like, okay, well, that's just 20, but still, you know. And
I've seen that video.
And it was like, that is not what you said. So anyway, we talked about that. I'm curious. That's the phase 1, attraction, which is inquiry, qualification, and then you close them. How do you close the sale? So there's some space along there where profits can leak in there?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Literally, like just right off the top like that? Okay.
Because if I'm inquiring, right, and if there's certain things that's not in place when I'm inquiring, right, let's say I DM you and you don't respond. I email you, you don't respond. I call, there's nobody, no one answers, right? Like, you're leaking right there.
Right there. And a lot of times I encourage people, the first thing is they need a proper intake form, unless you're gonna intentionally be going DM on IG or DM on LinkedIn, and that's your strategy. But if that's gonna be your strategy, like we've heard one of our guests say, you have to have somebody humanly managing your inbox, right? And so that's very true, because you already could have like, man, I got 100 people to send me DMs, but I only got a chance to respond to 50 of them.
Yeah. No, that once again, that's that leakage.
Right.
And some things can be automated, right? But you have to decide based on your business, okay, this is something that can be automated, where I can have an auto-responder and let them know that a human will respond within a certain amount of time.
Right.
But that's still communication. So then they know what to expect, opposed to nothing. So,
Right, exactly. And honestly, I actually encourage people to not take all of their inquiries via DM. Like, you can start the conversation there, but you should be navigating them away to a place where you can capture their content, right? So thank you so much for being interested in booking me here. To submit your official inquiry, go to this link. Right.
I love that. I love that. Right.
Yeah. So that's an autoresponder. At least they got a response. But now I'm sending them to where they can fill out a form or do something like that. So that's just layer number one.
Right. That's just the attraction. Right. So then there's phase number two. If you do it properly, right?
Right.
Let's say you did it properly. The attraction was there. So now it's the activation. Right. So now that's where you're onboarding. There's intake, and then there's a scope of work and agreement.
Right.
Right. But if something's missing in that activation stage, we're going back to leaking. Right. Let's say you don't have an onboarding process.
Okay.
Let's say you don't have an intake process. You don't have a scope of work. So now you're going to miss out. Like, those things are very important. Like you said, one of our guests walked us through their onboarding process. And I love that because it was very concise and clear. And in that process, I don't think that she's missing out on any, and nothing leaking out of that.
Right. And honestly, I just realized, like, I jumped us to intake, but like ultimately there was still some other leaks that could have happened even in the attraction phase.
Okay.
Right? Because we talked about the initial inquiry, but then qualification. Like, we've sat with people that we work with, that we've interviewed, and they were like, okay, when I qualify people, some people see qualification as who to weed out. But it's not just who to weed out, it's who can I redirect, right? So maybe the qualifications to work with your company is $3,000, like just the initial investment. But you realize a person doesn't have $3,000, they have $1,500. You could just say, oh, well, no, I can't work with them. Or what can you develop in your process that you can maybe give them another resource? For $1,500. I've seen it. People will say, well, hey, I can't afford this $900, $1,000 course. But it's like, well, I mean, the program, but here's a $100 course. And if you can't do that, then maybe here's the book, right? In fact, so I say that to say, maybe they couldn't have spent 1,000, but they could spend 100. Maybe they couldn't spend 100, but they can spend 10. Or maybe, like, I love one of our clients. She talked about how in her process, if you want to work with her, there's a retainer that's involved, right? There's an initial deposit, and then there's probably a 4-figure retainer, 5-figure retainer. But there's this initial phase where she's done some deep work, and she's kind of helped come up with a plan for you. No need to let that plan go to waste, and she just keep it for herself. She's like, well, I can share the plan with you, and that's a separate, that's a separate charge, a little bit lower, because you're not going to be working with me as a retainer client, but here's something. So that's an example of leakage right there on attraction. They're interested, they don't qualify, but what else do you have that you can offer them?
No, I like that. I like that.
Instead of just weeding them out. You could just weed them out. And then also weeding them out is important, right? Because it's like, Okay, now you're sitting here wasting your time talking to people because we talked about closing them, right? So you talked about inquiry, you talked about qualifying them, and then closing them. Now we're sitting here back to this 100 people, 100 people you're on the phone with, and 60 of them are not even qualified. Why were you even on that phone call? You know why you were on the phone call, or your team was on that phone call to try to close somebody that wasn't qualified? Is because you didn't have a qualification metric in place. And so that's why I think I hopped over to intake, because intake gives you an opportunity to do that. But what you're talking about intake, you're not talking about the inquiry form. You're talking about literally now we're intaking you into the system, right?
Yeah, once they said I'm buying and they buy, they input their credit card number, whatever the case. Now it's like, okay, cool. What's that next step in the process, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so now we talked about onboarding, and a lot of people are like, what's onboarding? Because most of the time you just like, I got a client, and now they're starting to work with me. And we're working together and we're rolling. And it's like, dang, this wasn't here and that wasn't here. And when you really get your client journey dialed in, it takes me about 3 weeks to fully get everything I need for the person. I got to get all their logins. Maybe I got to get their bio, their headshots. Maybe you're a manager of some sort. I got to get their W-9s, the 1099. These are the things I'm going to be asked for regularly. So we're in the phase of me getting everything.
Right.
And then I also have to get them logged into my system. Maybe you have a tool or software that you track all the clients you manage. You got to get them uploaded over there. And then after that, you have to have a meeting so you guys can make sure you share the vision and you're on the same page. What type of opportunities should you be pursuing? And so all of that really right there takes 3 weeks.
Right.
Just to make sure you're on, or maybe that takes 2 weeks, depending on how quickly or how fast you can go. But the point is, you should realize I've done a client after client after client after client, and I realize this is what it takes. I'm starting to calculate time along the journey. Time is important too. We're gonna get to that.
Yeah, and like I said, and some of you all may not necessarily have a service-based, may have a product-based business. So there's still a onboarding or intake process, right? And really what it boils down to is being able just to communicate effectively, right? So your onboarding process may be, after the payment is made, it's sending an email thanking the customer and client. Thanking the customer for buying your product, letting them know when it will be delivered. You know what I'm saying? It's like just communicating, letting them know, because they have expectations, right? And that's that scope of work.
Right.
It's like, okay, you can expect this day, this way. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like
it definitely works for products, especially for creative-based businesses, because oftentimes creatives are doing some creativity to say a product. We're not just selling you, like, most of the time, some generic product. Is usually like a slight custom. Like, take, for example, he got the Mind in My Creative Business, logo on right here. So this is a product. But it's also kind of like a service that was being provided as well. So I ordered a shirt from you. That's what I want. I paid for it. But it's like, okay, now you need to tell me what exactly do you want on here in this logo spot. Everybody who comes to me wants a different image in that logo spot. So tell me what you want. Once you put it in there, review it. A lot of print shops do that. They'll have to make sure you have to review the proof. After you review the proof, so there's still a step that lets you know that just because you're ordering today, that don't mean it's going to ship today, because we have to do a 2-step process to make sure the proof is there.
Exactly.
So that's what I mean. That's what you mean when you say there's a product, but sometimes there may still be a bit of something that has to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, and there could be some leakage there because.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And listen, there's been leakage with this, using this as an example.
Yeah.
I've had to use different people because their process wasn't tight. There wasn't communication. I'm like, okay, or if you're telling me I'm going to get it in 2 weeks after we've gone through the steps, I don't have my product. Right. But there was no communication, and to let me know why, there was no communication even. Yeah, it's just certain things that was missing in that process where it's like, okay, I got to go somewhere else that has their stuff more together.
Expectation setting.
That's
right?
it.
So if you haven't set the expectation, because like I was saying, in a service-based business, it's going to take us 3 weeks. Or if I'm delivering a product, if I'm sending you a journal, if I'm sending whatever it is that I'm doing, I know that it's going to take 10 days. If I set that expectation, I kill that antsy anxiety that the customer may have, or they may not even buy it from me, or they'll know, hey, whenever I get ready to go buy, I have to plan to buy this 2 to 3 weeks out in advance.
Right.
There's expectations are clear there. They don't want to go to your website. Okay, I like what they're doing. Okay, I'm gonna come back when I'm ready to buy, and they go ready to buy, and then they're not going to be able to get in the right time. So these are areas where leakage are happening, and we've just from Attraction.
Attraction.
Phase 1.
And phase 2, activation.
Activation. We're right there. There's some areas that you could have improved. There's another area in activation, which is getting the scope of work or the agreement is kind of what I'm talking about, which is I'm ordering this shirt, but okay, now what is going to go on your shirt? Do you just want something here? Do you want something here? Do you want something on the back? Now that's an example of a print shop, but it's the same if you are a cake decorator. I know you're buying a cake. I know what size you buy because maybe I productize it to where I have the small personal size, maybe the small group of people. I have the mid size and I have the full fill, right? And so we already know I only do those three sizes. But what you're gonna get on your cake, are you getting some kind of a bridal shoe? You getting a basketball on there? You getting so those things. I need to know the scope of your work. Am I doing the small? Am I doing the mid size? And with the mid size, what do you want on here? You want the trucks and the cars for the little boy party, or you want, so you have to understand what this person wants, and then you guys come to agreement on your ability to fulfill that.
That's it. That's it. I love it. So let's go to phase 3, right?
Phase number 3.
So
okay.
We've already talked about the inquiry or the attraction, activation, and now we're on to the fulfillment stage, right? Because you've got their attention. They say, yeah, I want it. They paid you. So now, how are we going to go about fulfilling this, right?
And this is this one right here. Listen, fulfillment is where it gets interesting, especially for a creative-based business. I say that because a lot of I guess some traditional businesses, there is the same process over and over and over, and it's oftentimes not a lot of creativity that happens along the fulfillment journey. All the creativity happened before. Like, take for example a restaurant who has a set menu, like not like a regular sit-down restaurant where we can customize and make it how you like it, but maybe like a Chick-fil-A, right? It's like a fast food restaurant became like manufactured.
Systematized, right?
They're systematized, like out of like how the car manufacturers work. So it's like they literally follow that process. So it's like at this point, we only have this, and that, right? So, but when it comes to a creative-based business, sometimes fulfillment looks different, but we still need to have a process and we still need to know what that journey is. And oftentimes what I've found is that creatives don't even know what the full fulfillment journey is. They're just like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, and eventually you're gonna get what you paid for. What exactly did you just do?
Right.
That's first and foremost. So let's kind of unpack what the fulfillment journey looks like, because we'll think that fulfillment is just you came to me for a service, you came for me for a product, I fulfilled it here. Right. But that's not what it. Let's talk about it.
And it's key that as we talk about it, everybody's going to look different. So we're going to give you some examples. But as we're talking about this, you should document this, right? Because you if you're responsible for it, you want to know what it is, and we call these SOPs, where you're creating standard operating procedures, right? So when you know, okay, cool, this is our fulfillment process, and you can articulate it to your customer and clients so that they're aware. But get in the habit of documenting, because a lot of times us as creatives, and listen, I'm guilty of this at times, where it's up here, right? And it's like, okay, let me take it out here, let me put it here, so then I don't have to do so much, because listen, I get brain fatigue, right? And I know you as a creative get brain fatigue too. So it's like, document it. So then you just have a checklist. Okay, cool. This step 1, this step 2, this step 3, this step 4. Okay, and it's fulfilled, right?
Exactly. So, and I love that what you said, that when it comes to fulfillment, there is a multi-step process. A lot of times, maybe it's 1 step, 2 step, but for most people, it's multiple steps. And knowing what those multiple steps are very important, not just for yourself, but so that when somebody else comes along and they're helping you, they know what area you can help in. Now, for some of you guys who are watching this, you are already an advanced creative entrepreneur. You know this. Y'all like, come on, Shy and Ron, give us the juice. I already know that part. But we just want to be clear, because you could have been leaking something at the attraction and the activation phase. So we want to, now here we are at fulfillment. Now, a lot of times when it comes to fulfillment, there's a timeline involved, right? That's the area of leakage. Oftentimes there are expenses along those steps that you have to incur along the way as the person who's creating this product to then deliver it, right? So let's go to an example of a a production, like a video production company,
All right.
right? So in order for me to deliver this, well, we did all the content capture, we did the photos, the videos, and all that. So you, as the production owner or your sales team, confirmed the deal. You
Right.
closed it. Cool. But at this event, you're going to have 3 to 4 shooters that are out there. One person is doing photos on this side of the room, one on this side, one doing the video, one doing the handheld video, the one is the stationary video. So one of your steps is I have to contract these other people.
Right.
So that's going to be expenses for you because you're going to have to pay them. Maybe your expense along the way is, in order for you to fulfill your service, you have to fly to that location or you have to drive to that location, right? Which is why people have delivery fees. For me, for my truck to even roll,
Right.
it's $50 for me to even come out, right? So there's a fees and expenses along the way that you have to actually pay for. And
That
so
you gotta be mindful of, right? Equipment rental. I mean, like you said, you are aware of what you need, right? But just be mindful of that. And part of that fulfillment is I would suggest getting a deposit up front because you just said you're going to have expenses. A lot of times, I've seen it to where creatives, they'll get payment after they deliver the service, but you've already done the work. We just talked to somebody yesterday that had a scope and service, had the scope of work, agreement in place. She did the work, and the client didn't want to pay. So she had to now take it in another route,
Right,
to
right.
prevent that leakage, because she would have missed out.
Right. And I highly recommend a deposit as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crucial. And also, I would like to introduce the concept, if you are not using it already, maybe some milestone payments,
Yeah.
right? So there are some people have the deposit and then the final balance, right? And that works. But there is milestones. So I have a friend of mine, she is a creative entrepreneur, she is an interior designer. She's going to do a whole renovation. She's applying her creativity to every crack and crevice of your house. She's doing your living room, your dining room, and your kitchen, for example. And then she's going to do your bathroom. Well, should she really do and incur all the expenses? Because she has every room, there's paint, there's floors, there's, all this stuff that she has to buy in order to do one room.
Right, right.
So she's taking the payment to ensure that she's covering the expenses for that first phase. Then she moves on to the dining room, right? And so then she's going to have expenses there. You want to be watching what your expenses are in each phase and also collecting milestone payment number 2. Then she gets to the kitchen, and the kitchen, that's when she has to bring in the demolition team to kind of come in, tear stuff down. So now she has to watch that cost right there because, okay, I don't want to have the demo team here when I'm doing phase 1 and phase 2. I don't really need them. So I should not contract them for the full time that I'm in service. I don't need them that whole time. I only need them when we get to the kitchen phase. So sometimes you have, and that's why I talked about the timeline, and you have people along the fulfillment journey. Sometimes you have the people, they're there and they're just sitting around. They're not even doing their job. So back to this production company, right? And you're on-site event fulfillment, doing all the photos and videos and all that kind of stuff. And you have one person who's over content capture, and we're just doing repurposing content. Well, I don't need you there for setup day, and I don't need you there for, maybe behind the scenes rehearsal day if you want to carry that. But I really don't need that content hand there into the 3rd day. So oftentimes people don't realize that, and it's like, man, I know I need this whole team, and you got this person here 3 days, paying them for 3 days, and they didn't work until but this day. And so these are the things that you have to watch along the way. And so we're introducing both deposit and final balance or milestone payments. People know about deposits. They're like, this is elementary stuff, but have you implemented those milestone payments?
Right.
Because if you have not, you probably should, especially if you're delivering your fulfillment in multiple steps that you can show, hey, I've completed this task. You and I agree that we've completed this task. And now that we both agree, now you should pay me. Because if I wait all the way to the end and you have to agree that all of it was worth it, you may try to play in my face.
Right.
But we're not going to let you play in my face, because I'm going to say, I did this phase, and you're going to pay me for this phase. I did this phase, and now, you see? Exactly. And so there's leakage opportunities there.
Right.
So you're not just an entrepreneur. You're a creative entrepreneur, which means that your world of business works differently, especially when it comes to funding. Okay, maybe you're bootstrapping, injecting your own money into your passion, or you're searching for investors who all too often overlook your unique vision. And yeah, you've heard a little bit about business credit, but you don't know exactly where to get started. Well, listen, we've got your back. We've partnered with Credit Savant to help creative entrepreneurs just like you get access to up to $150,000 in business credit. That's right, $150,000 to scale your creative-based business into the enterprise that you know that it can be. And trust me, they're not just going to throw information at you and send you on your way. They're going to walk hand in hand with you to help you get funded. Are you ready to take the next step? Well, head over to creditsavant.io. That's creditsavant.io and tell them MMCB sent you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's keep it rolling.
Let's keep it rolling. Let's go to the next phase. The next phase is the ascension phase, right? So that's when you've delivered the process or the product in your multi-layered steps. You follow up, feedback, and offer the next step. So just because they're done doesn't mean that they're done, right? Because if they've bought from you one time, more than likely they buy from you again. So you want to make sure you have something in place to where that can happen.
Okay. Delivery is complete. So how can we, and that goes back to those milestone payments, and we finally agreed that this is the final on how will we know the work has been delivered. And a lot of times people will run into issues that people didn't value what I did. Like, man, I sat here and I did this and I embroidered that and I stitched this and I went over your colors and you've done a whole bunch of things, but they don't value because they don't know what the final deliverment looks like. Now, back to traditional businesses. That's why we're talking about this with creative-based businesses, because it's clear. You're like, man, why is it such a hard struggle for me? I'm just getting me a regular job. It's not that. It's because it's more defined. Like if I go to Chick-fil-A, I'll know when they deliver. It's gonna be in the bag with the napkin, with the this, with the that, and they're gonna hand it to me, and that's the final delivery mode.
Right.
But I didn't just pay and then they handed me a bag. They had to make the sandwich, they had to get the fries, they had to put it in the cart, they had to put it in the bag, they had to put the napkin in there, they had to fold it neatly, put my name on it. You see, these are multiple steps, and that stuff is clear in traditional businesses.
Right.
And so that's why it's clear on what the delivery looks like. That's why you have to go through your client journey as a creative entrepreneur and be clear so that you know what delivery looks like. What is your sticker folded bag handed to them look like? That's delivery.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Because like I said, a lot of times it's up here, but that's what I was saying. Write it out and checklist it. Because then that develops consistency, right? And I don't know about you, but I love when a company that I'm utilizing is consistent because I know what to expect.
Know what to expect.
Right? If you're inconsistent, right, I don't know what to expect. I may get one thing one way today and something totally different tomorrow.
Right.
So that for the client, that part of my journey, nobody wants an inconsistent experience.
Exactly.
I want a consistent experience. So if you can provide this consistently, I'm going to return. I'm going to come back.
Right.
Because I've paid money with you, I was pleased with the service. And even if I wasn't pleased with the service, right, but you handled it in a certain way, I'm going to come back.
I'm going to come back because I know it's a consistent experience that I can count on. So when we define what means completion for what it is that you're offering, what product or service you're offering, be very, very clear on that. Yeah. Be very clear on that. Because when you're not clear, money is leaking. Because people are like, well, it's not done. I mean, the gown is not done. You know, the custom car wrap is not done.
Right.
The video production event they capture is not done.
Yeah.
How do we know what is done?
Yeah.
Because then they can continue to do something that what we call is scope creep.
Right.
At that point, they're like, well, it's not done. Well, we need to still do this, and we still need to do that.
Right.
And also, can you go cover this? And also, can you do that? And can you add this? That now the scope creep is on you because it wasn't clearly defined on what delivery looks like and agreed upon between both of you.
And that was back in the activation stage, right? That's what we're saying. Where it can be leaking because now you're doing more for the agreed upon price because you weren't clear on what the scope of service was going to be.
Right. Now, when it comes to following up, right? or getting feedback. The first thing is feedback. Oftentimes it's like, thank you so much for coming by. We hope you enjoyed the service. Do you mind giving us some feedback? Because we appreciate customer feedback because it lets us know how the experience was. We hope that we're delivering a consistent, high quality experience, but ultimately we want the client or the customer to tell us. So you request their feedback. They'll probably give it to you. And then after that, right, you don't want to just stop at feedback.
Right.
Oftentimes we stop at feedback. And some people may or may not take the survey. They may or may not give the quick review, depending on, unless you incentivize that. Right? So there's ways to ensure that they give that survey, ensure that they get that feedback if you offer them something in exchange. Man, we were talking to another creative entrepreneur, and she talked about how she incentivized people for making a referral, right? If you make this referral and it gets, I will give you a commission off of it, right? And that's just somebody, hey, you enjoyed the service. Can you tell somebody else about it? Don't just tell somebody else about it. Be an affiliate of my product. Be an affiliate of my service. So are you leaking money right there because you don't have your community and your current clients already going out there and selling on your behalf for an incentive? You don't have to give them a commission because that could be a harder structure, but maybe you give them a point, like a punch code. If you did that, 1 referral point, 2 referral point. After 3 referrals, you get something free on us, right? So people keep it simple like that, a reward system. So if there's no reward system to incentivize the feedback, to incentivize the referral, they may not do it. So we can increase the chances of that. But then we can move past feedback and past the hope of a referral. How do I get you to come back? How do I get you to come back as a customer? Because you already bought with me. So I need to reach out.
Definitely. And part of that feedback process, you should be getting birthday information, or not should be, but it would be wise to get birthday information, just certain information from them to where then when you do that feedback, you can reach out in certain times, right? Like let's say you bought a product and it was for maybe an annual event that you do. Okay, so if it's an annual event, I know that you're going to do this event the same time next year, so I should be reaching out in increments to just let you know that we're thinking about you as a business, right? And then when we're close into that, let them know, like, hey, we know that this event is coming up. You know what I'm saying? We hope that you have a successful event. You know, if you still want to, you know, whatever. I mean, you know, you figure out the language. Right.
I want to provide that service. We'd love to collaborate and work with you again. We're here.
Exactly.
And then it's like if they didn't bite, you know, and you're 4 months out, 2 months out, and they still, maybe, hey, or let's say 6 months out, you let them know it's coming up. And then 4 months out, you say, well, hey, here's a 10% off code. If you go ahead and book from this email, we would love to do it again. We enjoyed working with you last year.
No, listen, I've gotten birthday emails, right, with a little $5 off, you know, certificate or whatever the case may be that I've used. I wasn't thinking nothing about that.
Wasn't even gonna go.
I wasn't even gonna go. Oh, $5 off? Oh, let me go.
I'm going.
Just that simple.
Because you thought about me.
You thought about me.
I may spend 25, so so they just brought $20 in, and they got you to be a repeat client or a customer. Leakage happens right there in that ascension phase. When we say ascension, what we mean, we need you to move from this layer of customer to a repeat customer. We want you to move from this level of customer and ascend to being a referral, a reward-based referral or a commission-based referral. That's where income is happening. And then also when you said like the event is happening at the same time, when is your birthday? If you're paying attention, like maybe it's a wedding. You did a wedding, you can, hey, your anniversary is coming up.
That's good.
No, the wedding date, you know. Happy anniversary. Maybe 2 years from now, maybe we can do some anniversary photos. You know, maybe 2 years from now, maybe I do your hair. If I was a hairdresser or a stylist or makeup, maybe we do your hair again or your makeup again because maybe we do you another suit because maybe y'all are going to go on some fancy anniversary date. They may not even been thinking about going on no date, but you reached out and said, hey man, we'll do you a new fitting and a blazer, you know, for that, you know, and easy.
No, and it's really that simple, right? And this is something, once again, if you go back to one of our previous episodes, that can be automated, right? You don't have to necessarily be doing it manual. We encourage you not to necessarily do all this manual. This can be automated if you have a system, a CRM, like System Savant.
Right, exactly.
Right, you can automate these things and it does it automatically for you so that you can focus on the greatness that you do.
Yeah, and that's what we call your client journey, because
Exactly.
oftentimes we think the journey is over after we deliver.
Yeah.
But what else is that client going to experience, right? They're going to experience a birthday. They're going to experience the anniversary. They're going to experience doing that event again. They're going to experience needing that thing again.
Right.
Maybe they ordered these particular outfits, or maybe they needed these books for something. They're going to need it again. So continuously thinking about the client. That's why we're saying your client journey is leaking, because you're not thinking about the client. And if you know what's happening, then that's pretty much becomes a workflow.
Right.
And then you can automate the workflow.
Yeah.
You can automate those emails,
Right.
and that becomes a conversation from there.
Yeah.
So we've already taken you through the 4 phases.
Right.
And we said we were going to give you 7 things. We already went through like 10 things.
We went to more than 7. We definitely went to more than 7. But let's just recap it and bring it on home, right? So, like I said, we started off in the attraction stage, right? So, in that attraction stage is the inquiry, right? I'm inquiring about what it is that you do, seeing how this can benefit me. You're providing that information so that, whatever, but you want to make sure that, again, you're clear on that, so there's no leakage there. After they've inquired, then you're going to make sure that they qualify, right? So that's the qualification. So we're going to point out the 7 so that like, oh, they did give us 7, right? So inquiry, qualification. Then after you qualify them, the next few things you should be doing is closing them. And once again, this is all still in the attraction phase. So inquiry, qualification, close. Then after that, we go to the next phase, which is the activation stage. Okay, activation stage. Then we are onboarding them, right? So what is that onboarding process, that journey? Then we're going to do our intake. After that intake, right there should be some kind of physical form for your intake, because in that physical form, you can get more information from them, like we talked about, that you're going to use later on in your journey with the birthdays or, these different things. So that's intake. After the intake, then you're going to provide your scope of work or your agreement. Same thing. The scope of work is the agreement, right? There should be a signature on that scope of work so that the customer is clear on what you're going to deliver and you're clear on what the customer expects.
Exactly.
Okay. After that scope of work, then we're going to go to
fulfillment,
right? And then in that fulfillment, there's multi-facets. It's multi-steps, right? So you want to make sure that you had that SOP, step-by-step, what's going to be delivered. Then after that, we're going to the production and, I'll pause. What is that? Production and cost control. They added that one. They said nothing about that.
Multi-step. It was up here, so you scroll down. I would rather you just go from here, because it's all right here quick. So that is production. We didn't get to that. We stopped on delivery.
Okay.
Production, materials, and execution. We covered it a bit in fulfillment.
Okay.
When I was talking about along the way,
right.
that things need to be, and then ascension, which is,
Okay.
So you were in fulfillment, and you were talking about, so you left off right here, multi-step, right? Yep. And so then you had the production.
All right. Then the production and the cost of all those things. So what's that process of producing said product or service?
Right. The cost of goods sold, if you would.
Exactly.
What was the labor or so that the manpower you were paying for, or the materials and all those type of things? What cost went into fulfilling it for you? Because at that point, you would have been leaking because you didn't spend all this money and you've collected no money yet. Right. So that was on fulfillment right there. That's a leak.
That's a leak.
Okay. So we moving on, because that was already.
Exactly. So then we're at the last phase, ascension, and then with that we have the delivery complete. It's all said and done. Follow up and feedback, right? Make sure you have some kind of survey, and don't just get the information from them. Utilize it. See how you can improve and make adjustments, or what. And then the final thing. So we gave you 11. It wasn't 7. We gave you more than that. Is the let them know what the next step is. The ascension, right? How can I get you to return, or how can I offer you something else, right? Because if you are, you have different packages and whatnot, they may have gotten this base package, but now they're ready for that premium package.
Right. So we talked about how can I get you to return, and how can I get you to refer, right? And you can refer based on commission or reward, but what you're talking about, you add the extra right here in the recap, right? How can I get you to not just return at this same old thing you bought before, but maybe this first time you bought this time you're ready for our full boy, the more extravagant offer, So that's what we're talking about. And along that journey, we gave you examples, but in spite of us giving you examples, you're going to have to look through your client journey at all of these checkpoints to actually determine, okay, what does that look like for my creative-based business?
Yes.
From the time somebody is curious about what I'm doing, they're inquiring about what I'm doing. What does that look like for me? How am I generating my interest? How do I convert them? How do I close them? What does that look like for you? How do they become a customer? Once they become a customer, how do I fulfill it, right? How do I know I'm delivering it?
Yeah.
What does delivery look like for me? Like, I know that these things may seem simple, but it's not when you really haven't thought about your process. You're doing it differently every time for every customer.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
leakage.
That's leakage.
And opportunity
That's
for leakage.
Literally.
Right? And then, how can I get you to refer? How can I get you to return?
Yeah.
What does that look like? People think that it's over after they bought.
Yeah.
No, it's not over.
Yeah.
How can I get you to ascend to the next level? You have to think about that. That's what we mean when we say minding your creative business. You have to mind the business that
pays you. Yeah, no, this was good. Listen, I'm hoping y'all are locked in and was paying attention and taking notes. If you got to rewind it because no, this is critical.
Yeah,
this
you
is
should
critical.
rewind and
Yeah.
actually map out. Okay, so this is my phase. Stop it right here. Stop the video and go through all of that and make sure you did it. And the cool thing about once you do all that, when we say you can automate the email, it's not just automate the email. Once you have a client journey mapped out, you have a workflow and you can turn it into workflows in your system, right? A system, like you said, Savant Sync, right? So I mean, but you can't turn it into an automated workflow, or you can't. Everything can't be automated. But if you can look at it and say, okay, this right here, I'm doing this. We can eliminate that. This right here can be automated. This needs to stay humanized. You'll know, right? But you won't know until you sit down and map it out. Map it out. Put it visible for you to see it, for your team to see it, and you're taking things to the next level.
Yeah. No, I love it. And you see how all the stuff just connect. Like this episode connect to that episode and all that. I mean, so no, that's dope. That's dope. So
that's cool.
No, dang, I wish we can keep going, but we gotta close out. Now
it's
time to say goodbye to all my mind and my creative business friends. MMC.
We have to say go. We respect your time, but thank you so much. If you are here and you've been pretty much rocking all the way to the end, we know that you're serious about minding your creative business. So thank you. Do us a favor, like the video, drop a comment on what part of the client journey do you know that you need to really work on fine-tuning, or tell us where you found some leakage if you really want to be transparent and vulnerable. Okay? Come on. All right? And so just thank you so much for tuning into this episode. We really, really appreciate it. And I would ask you something, but I want to thank you and ask you for something. So, Ron, do the honors.
Yeah, so make sure that you're doing that like. Make sure they're commenting, you're sharing. But outside of doing that, we also want to invite you to be a part of the Creative to CEO Challenge. It is a 5-day challenge that me and Shy are hosting to help you transition from solely a creative into a creative CEO. In this 5-day challenge, you will get your 90-day CEO plan on a page. You will identify what your signature offer is, and you're going to build the systems and structure around that signature offer so that you can hit 10K plus months. So click the link in the description or in the show notes, and we want to see you in that challenge.
And I want to shout out to somebody who says 10K plus months. I've made a $10,000 month. That's totally not for me.
Yeah.
But have you made 10K plus months consistently? Because what we're going to be teaching you are the consistency habits, the rhythms that you need to have to hit that on a consistent basis. Signature offer, dialed in, doing it consistently. And we're going to do that in just 5 days, an hour a day, locked in. Man, it's super cool. 5-day Creative to CEO Challenge, and it's less than $100.
Yeah.
Less than $100. Yeah. So yes, we want to make sure that we're not just serving you here on this channel, but we give you opportunities to really workshop your business and develop that consistency you really need. Speaking of consistency, I like to end every episode with a mantra that includes the word consistency. But it's not just him and I saying it. You have to say it as well. We want to hear from you. Matter of fact, we want you to hear from you because we believe affirmations are important. That's a part of self-development, okay? So when we say this mantra, I want you to say it out loud with me. Everybody ready? I said everybody ready. Okay, here we go. All it takes
All it takes
is consistency,
is consistency,
intention,
intention,
and laser focus
to
mind my creative business.
mind my creative business.
And on that note,
Peace.